Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masech Nedarim daf Nun Aleph. We're going to begin on the bottom of daf Nun by the two dots. Yomi the Machayach be Rabbi. The day in which Rabbi laughed, Ase per Nusal Alma, tragedy came to the world. Amalei Bar Kapara. So because of this, he turned to Bar Kapara and he said, Lo teva dichan, please do not make me laugh. The avinulach arboin gari vechite. And if you do that, I'll reward you. I'll give you 4 barrels filled with wheat. There's a tremendous amount. Or boin, 40. So Armulei Lechsimar. So let me see, as we can do it off and off, the whole Gariva de Beina Shakilna. That all these measurements I wish to take. Shakel di Kula Rabbi. He took this huge basket, Chafi Kufra, and he smeared it with tar. And Rashi says, so that all the wheat should stay inside of this basket, nothing should fall out. V'sachve al reshe, and he put this huge basket on his head. Yozvi amalei, and he turned to Rabbi and said, Lech limar boin gruvichite. Please, I want to be able to take my measurements of 40 measures of wheat. So durashina boch, that basically I lent to you, or that I'm asking you, right? Rashi says, you owe me. So Rabbi, when Rabbi saw this, he started to laugh. I already told you not to make me laugh. I was just asking for my collections. The Rebbe. So Bar Kapara turned to the daughter of Rabbi, and he said, Lomachar, Tamar, Shasina Chamra, I'm going to be drinking wine, Berikuda Davuch, and your father will be dancing, will be Kirkane de Imech, and literally the singing with your mother. Your mother's going to be singing. On this, Rashi says, maybe not singing, Bimzigasa, Shimech, Timzoig Lihakos. Your mother's going to prepare for me this cup. So Ben Elasa chaste de Rabbi Havi. So Ben Elasa was the son-in-law of Rabbi. V'asher Gadol Havi was quite wealthy. Azmi lebe Hilula de Reb Shimon beRebbi, and they were invited to this party. So Amalei Bar Kapara Rabbi. So Bar Kapara asked him the question. He said, "My toeva." What does this pasuk mean? Which is referring to a toeva that asu shnehem, that there was a toeva for both of them, referring to the Mishkav Zachar. Called the Armalei Rabbi the Hachin Hu Toeva. Anytime Rabbi would explain this is what it means, Parcha Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara didn't accept his answer. He refuted it. Armalei, so Rabbi said, okay, Parshayat, you explain. So Armalei Bar Kapara said, okay, Teisi debizchi tirmi li natla asas ramule. So he said, first, have your wife prepare for me a cup, and then also should be poured for me. Armalei Rabbi Kumer Koidli, stand up and dance for me. The Emrullah Hachi Amrachmana Toeva Toe Ataba. So then he explained to me, he said the word Toeva means that someone who is a Toya, someone who got left behind or left a female. That's what it means. You're Toya. You gravitated. Says the Ran Shemaniach Mishkavi Isha V'Hoylach Eitzel Zachar. You left behind Toya. You went away from a woman, and instead you went to a man. To another cup, he said, my tevel. What does the pasuk mean when it says tevel, which is referring to, as Rashi says, this is referring to bestiality. That it should be just like was done before. That I'm going to have all these requests for you. So the Amalach Avod. So he said, do for me the Amalach Avod, Amalei, and so he did exactly as the same thing. He prepared wine, he had father dance in front of them. So what's Tevelhu? Tavon Yeshba. What it means, any spice. Mi shan yichadabia min kulhoin biyos. Says Rashi, Kleimer yesh b'biyazu tam, this bia has this taste, literally, mi'bacherois, from the others, shemanachas bala v'nirvas behema, that is different than all other behema, all other bios that you had tashmish with an animal. Amrulei umay zima. What does it mean zima? So Amrulei Evenly kin yana kadma, do the same thing. Then he said, Zu mahi, this, what is it? In other words, the Ran says, Lashon Suffolk, Sheni Yodia Mimihi Misaberes. Someone who is involved in Zima is someone that you don't know the status of the child because she's with multiple men. Ben Lemisbel. At this point, Ben Elasa, who was listening to all this, he couldn't listen to this anymore. It says Rashi, Oso Zilusa Shel Rebbe. The fact that his father-in-law was being embarrassed. Shai Usher Gadol, he was rich. He couldn't stand to be able to see his father-in-law being humiliated. He got up and left. Who the in to say mitamon. So basically, he got up from the wedding and he couldn't be there anymore. So my ben alasa the sanya lo chinam pizer ben alasa as ma'isa. Not for nothing did he spend his money. Il haros behen tispire shel kohen gadol. Rather to show the exact manner and how a kohen gadol's hair should be cut. T'chsiv kesoim yichsmu es rashehem tana kein lul yolis. It's supposed to be done just like lul yolis. So my lul yolis, what exactly is that referring to? So, Rav Yehuda tisparta yechidata, unusual or set aside haircut that was designated specifically, as the Ran says, tispiris na, which creates great beauty. That one piece of hair reached, if you would fold it over, to the other hair. Behind the tispiris shel kohen gadol. So this was a very, very special haircut to make sure that everything was cut exactly, every single hair perfectly. Over the last harmutza, so our Mishnah said, going all the way back, that when it came to a person who said a neder for tafshil shinatayim, which was, I'm not going to eat a cooked food, so he's usher, as we said, b'mas kadera rach, something which is soft, which is dipped with bread, but is mutter with thicker foods, unless you're from Bavel. And then it says mutter bebeitza turmuta, which we said there were these eggs which were dipped 1,000 times in hot and cold water. Over the last harmutza, this type of cooked squash. So the Gemara says like this: my delas harmutza. So Omer Shmuel, it's referring to a kara karkuzai. So it's referring to this type of squash. Says Rashi, Deloyim shel oisamakam of that place, shenim is bashlam oilam yafe, that it doesn't get completely ripened. Ravashi Omer Delas hatmuna beremetz. It's actually a gourd that is like concealed in coals, says Rashi. Offer shagachoim delav tavshalhu. So it doesn't fall into the category of a cooked food. Eis Ravina Ravashi. So according to Ravashi's opinion, we have a question. From Nechemi Omer Delas Aramis he Delas Hamitzris Kilayim Im Hayavanim Kilayim Im Harmutza. So it says that we see this type of gourd, or else it wouldn't be, it would not be Kilayim. Says Rashi. Alma de harmutza lav temuna beremetz. It must be, this is talking about a case where it's not completely covered up. El shem makamhu min zirayimhu. The fact that it talks about this in this way, we see the gourd is not something which is completely covered up. Look in the Ran. Alma lav temuna beremetz kamer el min dalasi shenikras ramutza. And this Gemara says tiyufta. If you go to the round before that, it says Delas Ramasi Delas Hamitzris, claimer Zuhi Delas Hamitzris. This is this type of gourd, and it's not something which is covered up. So it must be that's not what it's referring to. Okay. Let's look at question 4. Mehem Beis Halacho Shomer Besugin Bedelas Harmutza. What are the two dinim regarding this gourd? First of all, if a person says Kainim Tashel Shinitayim, he's allowed to eat this particular type of gourd, or shehi kelayim im dalas hamitzris. This is considered to be, this gourd is called kelayim, a forbidden mixture together with the Egyptian dalas. So again, that's what it says. Dalas aromas he dalas hamitzris is kelayim im chamutza. It's considered to be kelayim together with the other one, if they're mixed together. So it must be, if they're mixed together, it's not tomon, it's not completely covered. Okay, next Mishnah. Hanoidim masnisa. Hanoidim masa kedera. The person makes a neder that they're not going to eat masa kedera. So ein asur el mamasi resachta. You're only asur things that are scalding hot. Now Rashi says that's hainu davar shenigmar bishul b'kedera. Something that's completely and finished cooking in a pot. Says the Ran, ezu masi resachta k'gain chilka targin v'tisaki k'solas oiris v'nikris resachta al shem shetzarech or tiach avashal harbe. It needs to get hot. It needs to be cooked very much. Or if a person says koinam hayari l'kedera, anything that goes into a pot, shani toyim so asa b'chol hanasa b'kedera, anything that goes into a pot is going to be asa too. So Tanya, we learned in the following Tosefta. Hanoidim and hayari l'kedera. A person makes a neder on anything that goes under or into a pot. So asa b'yard l'ilfus. You're even asa to eat anything that goes into a frying pan. Shikvar yard l'kedera koidim shir l'ilfus, because it already went into the pot before it went into the pan. Now, first it was cooked in a pot before going into a pan. That used to be the custom, that anything that was cooked in an ilfus, before they would do that, they would first put it into a kedera, into a pot, cook it a little bit, and then they would put it into the frying pan. So therefore, even things that go into an ilfus, they're also going to be usr, because they also made it into the frying pan, into a pot. However, the other way around, min hayar the ilfus, mutib yar the kedera. If you say they're going to not have anything which is in an ilfus, so it's mutter biyarid l'kedera, because the foods that are just cooked in a pot do not go into an ilfus, but everything that goes into an ilfus always goes into a pot. Min hanas b'kedera. Let's say you say anything that's completed in the pot, musa b'nas b'ilfus, because it's completed in the pan. So therefore, it's not that it was ever in a pot. It has to be that it was completed the cooking process in the pot. Min hanas b'ilfus, musa b'nas b'kedera. For the same reason, it's all totally on what is the end. So therefore, if you have something which is finished in a pan, in a pot, that's not going to be an issue, because you answered only things that are nasa, which the language that means was completed in the pan. Look in the Ran, Kalemer Afalpi Sha'achamikan Harido Be'ilfis, even though after it goes into the pot, goes into the pan, Shari Kivan de Gemar Asiyaso Be'kedera Hayakach Nir Be'enai. Okay. Hanoidim in a yarid, Latanor, if a person makes the net of him putting something into a tanur, into an oven, and asr el b'pas. We say that only asr's bread, because the Ran says the stam yod l'tanur mash b'pas. That's the typical language the person says, is referring to bread. Yim omer komasi tanur lai, any of the actions, anything that goes in, asr b'chol hanasim b'tanur. Anything that's completed in an oven is going to be asr. As we continue to Nun Aleph Beis with the next Mishnah. The Masnisin says as follows: Min ha-kavush. So we focus on the letter hey over here. It says you're making a dinner from anything which is commonly preserved. Eino asar elmin ha-kavush shel yarak. Only something which is of vegetables. And this Duran says, Misham de Kivandi Amr ha-kavush. As you said, the hey mashme ha-yodua. The hey ha-yodua, stama di yaraku. That is something which was typically preserved more than anything else, was the vegetables. However, if you don't say it with a hey, kavush, shani tayim, so asa b'chol hakvushim, anything that's preserved. For that matter, min ha-sholuk, so eno asar element ha-sholuk shel basar. So when it comes to sholuk, which is this form of cooking, it's something which is referring to specifically meat. If you say it without a hey, of sholuk shani tayim, asa b'chol ha-sholukim. Gemar, Omer le Rav Acha Berei de Rav Avi Rav Ashi, Omer Dikavish, if you said it with a dalid, my. Dishakel, my. Ditzali, my. Dimaliach, my. Heichin mashma, what is that mashma? So, tiboya, so it's a question. The Ran says, "B'dalid imashme heyadua olo." We know that the hay is heyadua. How about the dalid? So that we're not sure that's a teku. Okay, question 5. Straight Mishnah. Hanoider min hakavush min hasholuk bama neser. So if you said min hakavush, it's only vegetables. If you said min hasholuk, it's only meat. Next Mishnah. Masnisen min hatsoli. Again, here using the hay from that which is roasted. And also element hatsoli shel basar, roasted meat. Dibra Bihuda. Sali without the hay, shenitayim asabachol atzoyim, anything that's just roasted. Min hamaliach with a hay, salted items, and asar element hamaliach shel dag, salted fish. Maliach without a hay, shenitayim asabachol maluchim, anything that's salted is asar. What if you say dag dagim shenitayim? You mentioned not only fish, dug, but also dagim, fish. Solution Rabin. So asar behen, there's asar ben gedolim, ben katanim, ben maluchin, ben tefelim. It doesn't matter if they're big fish, small fish, whether they're salted or non-salted, ben chayim, ben mavusholim, whether they're raw or they're cooked. The din is all these things are going to be asr. It's all inclusive. Says the Ran, Mishum di Omer trei lishni dagim. Since you said dagim, the dag mashma gadol. Dag means big. Even though it's singular. Why is it called big? Mishum the nimchor b'fnei because it's sold by itself. The dagim, which is plural, mashma katanu if shein nimchor elo biyachad. Very interesting. So a dog is one, which means it's big, because you sell it as one, so it's a dog. Dagim are sold by multitudes, many, so therefore it's they're small. However, umutter betris trufa. It's mutter if the fish are all chopped up. V'tzir, and it's brine. Says the Ran. Tris trufa dag gadol, torif dak. It's chopped up to small pieces. Mishum hachi shari mishum dedag dagim shleimim mashma. When you say this language, it's mashma that it's a full fish, not a chopped up one. Hadayder min hatzachana. A person makes a neder from small fish, which means chopped, some are whole. Aser batris trufa, so it's aser even when they're chopped. Umutter batzir ubemorius, but the brine and the fish fat are mutter. Hanoider mitris trufa, person makes a neder against these chopped up pieces. Aser batzir ubemorius, even the fish fat and the brine are aser. Says the Ran. Sachana dagim katanim harbi meluchim. Many of them are salted. V'yeshmem terufim, some are chopped up. El sharubim shleibim, a lot of them are full. The katani, the kivan sheish mehem terufin, since some of them are cut up, aser betris trufa, umiyu betzir meiris mutter. However, the brine is mutter. Lefi she'en behen chaticha shel dag el shamno ukarabov. Hadonim in the tris trufa mutter betzir ubemorius. Because since there's no pieces of fish in it, so fine. Let's see the Gemara. Gemara says, Tanya Rav Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Dag Shani Tayim. If he only says the word Dag, Aser b'Gedolim Umutter b'Katanim. So if you only say the word Dag, which means big, so here's Aser with the big fish, but they're Mutter the small ones. Daga Shani Tayim, Aser b'Katanim Mutter b'Gedolim. But if you say the word Daga, you add that, so that already is referring to smaller ones, therefore it's Mutter b'Gedolim. Dag daga shani time. We said both. Then aser ben gadol ben katanim, bigger and smaller aser. Amur rapapal abai b'mai the dag shani tayim gadolhu. How do we know when you say dag it's referring to a big fish? The chsiv, as we see in Yona, v'yaman Hashem dag gadol. There was a big fish with loyas yain that swallowed him up. The chsiv yispal yain el Hashem el kav mimei hadaga. He was praying from the big fish. So it's interesting, it changes the language from a dog to a daga. Halukasha. Dilma plati dag gadol. Maybe he was swallowed up by a big fish. Ubali dag katan. And also swallowed by a small fish. So in other words, says the Ran, the Afal Gav Tahu Nami Dabale Basof, even though the one that was swallowed up at the end, Gadol is big, Melitra, Hayanikra Katan Be'erech Harishon. Compared to the first fish, the second one was small. So it's possible that there was actually two fish involved. Ela v'hadaga shebiyar mesa. It says by Makas Dam that the fish died. Katanim mesu gedol lo mesu. Does it mean that the small fish died but not the big ones? Ela daga mashma gedol mashma katanim. Daga has to mean big and small alike. And for the Nedarim halach achar lashon b'nei adam. But when it comes to Nedarim, we go after lashon b'nei adam. Question 26. Maman nikra daga b'lashon Torah b'lashon b'nei adam. So, daga, lashon Torah, as we see by Makas Dam, is big or small fish. However, b'lashon b'nei adam, when we say daga, it's referring to only small fish. And then we'll conclude with hanayder min hatzachana chulu. If a person makes a neder regarding these small fish, some are chopped up. What if he says the word sichin? What is the din? So on this, the Gemara says teku or tiboye. So on this, the Ran says that shatzir hayotz mehen reichun noidef v'loshen v'tol sachana so. I omer sichin demashma ribuye I mishtamele namitzir. Is that also including the brine and the like? Teku. All right, let's see a couple of questions and then we will stop. Hanoider min hadagim. Question 6. You made a neder with dagim, which usually means small fish. What does this include? What does this include? So dagim gedolim. When it comes to dagim gedolim, it does not include, because dagim is mashma small, right? It's mashma small fish. So dagim gedolim it doesn't include. Dagim ketanim it does include. Shleimim it does include. However, terufim chopped up enu koilel it does not include. Question TB27. Ma nafkamina bin oiser al atzmo dag o dagim. What's the difference if you say the language of dug or dagim? So, as we said, dug is mashma a big fish. Dagim is mashma small fish. So let's see what he writes. Dag asa b'gedolim moter b'gatanim, dagim asa b'gatanim and moter b'gedolim. Adkan.